welcome everyone to How to Train Your Flute. It's so great to see you all here. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Dr. Mariana Gariazzo, and I am so delighted to share this session with you, in which we'll be talking and trying different exercises and concepts of flute playing, so to develop a very close and collaborative relationship with our instrument, the flute. So I developed some concepts here that I hope are applicable to all of you, right? So we're going to have a little bit for each one. If you find any of the exercises too difficult, try to play along and do the other octave. This presentation today, this masterclass or workshop, is very participatory, right? So please bring your flute, and you're going to be able to try the concepts. I'll explain as much as we can. I'm going to be showing some pictures. I'm going to be talking about very specific elements of flute playing. And so just like Hiccup, trying to establish this relationship with Toothless, right, to train Toothless, we flutists must learn to understand how our instrument works, what exactly the flute likes, what kind of wind, what kind of air I need to send to the flute, what is that the flute needs to make a pretty sound. So we're going to be talking about some of these fundamentals, elements of flute playing. We really have to develop this collaborative relationship with our instruments. You know, sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating, I must say, when we are repeating the same thing and, you know, we cannot master whether it's a passage or we have difficulty getting a good tone. So rather than fighting against the instrument, we're going to get to know exactly how we can create this relationship out of patience, curiosity, and mutual understanding with the instrument, right? What is that we need to do to get the instrument to work for us? So in the first section of this masterclass, I have 3 sections. The first sections, I call it Meet Your Dragon, right? So we are going to be talking about good posture. And that is super important in our relationship with the instruments. How do we bring the instruments to us? It's instrumental in creating a good tone. So the first thing that I would like to point out is to avoid hunching over, right? So I see a lot of students getting very close to the stand and hunching over to create a sound. And that, if I turn around, you can see how my head is protruding forward, and it doesn't help me to neither get a good sound, because it also affects my voice. If I talk like that, it's not the same if I talk with a tall torso, right? So that's going to affect my tone. More so in the flute, there is a very important relationship between the blowing angle and the position of your head, which I will explain in just 1 second. So it is very important that you bring the flute to you rather than you to the flute. So that's the first thing about posture. Bring the flute to your chin and stay with your head tall on top of your spine. So we really want to avoid protruding forward. We are also avoiding just getting back into the chair. So try to stay erect in your spine and keep the head aligned on the top, on the base of your spine. Then you bring the flute to you. So that is a fundamental concept of how to achieve good posture. If you are reading, and let's say that you are looking at the screen of your phone or your stand right now, you may want to have your flute in a parallel motion to your computer, Chromebook, or phone. Put the flute in a parallel position, but then move your hips in your chair to the right, so that you create an imaginary triangle between the flute and your legs. That certainly it's much better explained in person, but we will try. Okay, so another very important in the sitting position is to find balance in your sitting bones. So make sure that you, in whichever chair you're using, some chairs are not straight, they have a little bump, or the tip of the chair is higher than the middle of the chair. So find a placement in the chair in which you can feel your sitting bones, and from those sitting bones you're going to line up your spine and your neck, and that way you're going to feel a lot more supported. So bring awareness to the way that you sit. Have your legs relaxed and touching the floor, not all the way up or cross legs. The legs should be relaxed and both feet, the sole of the feet, should be touching the floor. Another very important aspect is how to hold the flute with your arms. So you don't want to, I'm going to lower this so that you can see it. You don't want to create any stress in your shoulders by bringing your arms and elbows really high. So this is very effortful. You want to relax your elbows, let them drop. I'm going to lower this a little bit. Let the elbows drop. You can even tell on my sound. Relax, and now elbows flapping away. It changes the relationship and the direction of my air, so it will affect my tone. So make sure that your elbows drop without being constricted to your torso. Just drop gently, making sure that your shoulders are relaxed. That is very important too. So don't hold the flute from your shoulders. You're going to hold the flute with your hands and drop the elbows. Very good. Excellent. So talking about holding the flute, that is very important. So we are in this point right here. How do we hold the flute? This is such a critical element. If we were to fly our dragon, we will need to know every aspect. Where do we hold the dragon so that the dragon can obey our instructions, right? So that, and comparatively, is very important to know how to hold the flute. So there are 4 very important placements that we need to take into consideration to hold the flute in good balance. The first point, you're not gonna guess it, is the chin, right? So right here, my bottom teeth, that's where I hold the flute. So please place your flute right here on your chin and feel it secure. How are you going to feel that security? Is by using the second point, which is the base of your index finger. I would like for you now, use your 2 hands. This is my left hand and this is my index finger. I'm gonna go all the way down with my other index, see if I can get it closer here, right? And then there's a point at the base of my index in which there's a big bone, and that is going to become the seat of my flute. Right here. That's where I'm gonna sit my flute. Let me show you. You see, there's my index, and I go right here to the big bone in the palm, the top of the palm of my hand. Then I'm gonna wrap my index around to get to the B key, and I'm going to be holding the flute in this position. So you can see that my thumb is free to move, and my palm is holding the flute. That is another very important aspect of holding the flute. And this index is going to bring and secure the flute on my chin. That way the flute can be balanced in the left hand. There are 2 other points. I mentioned 4 points. The other point is the thumb in the right hand and the pinky. The pinky pushes down, the thumb holds the flute against the gravity. So you can see this goes up and the pinky goes down. And that creates a nice balance between the up and down motion right here. So if this were a dragon, we can just, wave away the tail of the dragon if you were. So now let me show you some pictures. So that is how the flute should be sitting on the top of the hand, or basically the base of the index finger, above the bone, yes. And then we have here examples of how to hold the flute. The one that you see right here on your left, that is a protruding thumb, and the finger is not helping hold the flute, or it's not in a position that will be favorable for the flute. So you want to make sure that your flute is held by the thumb being below the tube, like that. I always like what one high school student taught me, C for correct hand position. So if you have a C here, and then you place your C right here below the F, right? Then you can have the correct hand position. Very good. We're going to go to the next picture right here, and this is talking about the thumb. So as you can see, this thumb, it is bended, and therefore is not very relaxed. So the thumb on the left side is bended, not relaxed. The thumb on the right is straight and relaxed, and can slide down from the B flat key to the B natural. So that is the position that you need to have. If you are holding the flute with the thumb, you won't be able to change those keys. So it's very important that the flute sits here, and that the thumb is straight and free to move sidewise. Okay, let's see if we have another picture here for hand position. Oh, the pinky, that's very important. How many of you complain about having a stuck pinky? Right? The pinky gets stuck and it hurts. Right. Okay, so it gets stuck because we are stretching or bending down the pinky. So this is not the position you want for your pinky. You want the position on your right. So the pinky is curved and sided. You cannot see it on that picture really well, but it is better to play the pinky with the right side of the finger. I know this is a lot of detail, but I promise your toothless flute will work a lot better and faster if you follow these directions. So, as you all know, the flute needs air to make a sound, right? Good amount of air. And in order for us to get a good sound, we have to split the air stream in half. So I have to send some air inside the flute and some air outside of the flute. If that relationship is not very well attended and observed, then we get into trouble. So for a good tone, we actually have to cover with the bottom lip about 1/3 of the embouchure hole. 1/3. So I'm going to ask you to, yes, you can follow with the head joint, cover about half. Cover about half. That could work too. But if you cover, let's say 3/4, this is how the sound will sound. Right? If I am over covering, I cover 3/4 of the embouchure hole, so then the sound will be strangled. If I cover too little, and you could see here the entire embouchure hole, the sound will be airy. So you need to find that sweet spot in the middle, covering about half to 1/3. And I'm going to get a little bit closer because we can do that in Zoom. And you can experiment finding the exact sweet spot for your embouchure by doing this exercise. With the head joint, it's kind of hard to see. I want you to say yes with your head. You have a bird in your head. Oh my goodness. That is so unique. I think your birdie, oh, he's so cute. Oh, oh, is that a parrot? It's so lovely. Oh, how cute. Okay, so you can go up and sound airy or down until you find your nice sweet spot. If you keep going down, you're gonna destroy the sound. So that relationship between your lips and the space that you leave for the air, it's super, super important. Now let me show you some pictures, because there are other aspects of the positioning of the lips that are super important to observe. So I call this section case studies in embouchure, because I took little pictures of my students' embouchures to teach them how they look, and then you can see some of them. So here's a picture showing how much of the embouchure hole referring to the hole in the lip plate, we need to cover with the lips. So make sure that you cover that much, maybe a little bit more, but not less than that for sure. The other aspect here that is very helpful to know is that the lips are surrounded by the orbicularis oris. This is this oval shaped muscle that we have around the lips. And it's actually layers of tissue. It's not just one muscle, it's different layers of tissue. And it is connected to all other muscles in the face, even in the nose. Do you see that? Look, if we do a sniffing like a bunny, you can feel that you are moving your lips at the same time. You cannot disconnect the nose muscles with the orbicularis oris, which is the muscle that you have all around your lips. The lips are connected to the buccinator. I don't want to get too specific, but all the cheeks and the lips are all connected. So we have to train these muscles for flute playing. Some of the exercises that we may want to do to kind of become more aware of these muscles is to do the flutter, lip flutters like horses. I know I look very silly, but this is a great exercise. Brass players use it a lot to relax their lips. And if you do it for a little bit, so then you get more circulation into your lips, and therefore you're going to feel them more alive. You can also try frowning or making all kind of silly faces. Sometimes I do exercises by moving my lips to one side, to the other, and this fast, and that gives tone to the muscles in my face, and that allows me to have a more responsive tone in the flute. So things that we do here in the face can help us have a more responsive tone in the flute, or a better color. So I want to show you some pictures that some of them are problematic, and I'll explain why. For instance, this student has an upper lip that is over covering the embouchure hole. And as I explained before, in order for us to have an air stream that is split in half, we have to have the two lips more or less aligned. If I overcover, I'm going to have serious difficulty getting a steady tone, and especially problems getting into the upper register. Okay, so here's another picture. This student can produce a very good sound, but you can see that the corners of the lips are tight, like in a smiley face. And what happens when we smile and play the flute is what happens when we push the end of a hose. The air will spread out. It will not be directed, narrowed into the embouchure hole. So if we smile, The sound gets velocity, I'll give you that, and you may have, oops, I went all the way back, and you may have still a tone, but if you wanna be gaining stamina and gaining good tone for the long round, I advise you not to tight the corners of your lips. So bring these muscles as forward as you possibly can. So this is another, I don't think it shows very well, but the student here has an aperture here that is bigger than the embouchure hole. So you may want to make sure that your aperture is the same size than your embouchure hole. If the aperture is too big, you're going to waste a lot of air and feel dizzy, and the sound will not be centered. So what you could do, if that is your case, let's say that you're a 5th grader and you just started the flute, that might be your problem. I like encouraging students to do an attack with the letter P, 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 or so you pop, literally pop your lips, pop, 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 and that gives you tone or elasticity in the tiny, tiny muscles around the aperture. Okay, so here's more. This is another case in which the upper lip, that's very common, upper lip over covering, so that can create some trouble. In this case, the student is too close to the blowing wall right here, not giving enough space for the air to move forward. And this one is pretty good because you can see the little triangle of air coming through and it's pretty much centered. So you want that. You want the triangle of air to go center. This one is good too, although you can see that it's more to the left than the center of the flute. And this one is a course study, right, or a case study. So you can see that it is right in the middle. And another very important, this is why I added the lines here, is to be aware of the angle between your nose and the flute. The flute needs to be parallel to the lips and perpendicular to the nose. If the flute changes that angle, then you're going to lose a little bit of the definition in the tone. And this is very common because the hands, when we have the entire instrument, get tired. And so it's very common for many of us to drop the flute. Right? And then we get that kind of sound. So if you're going to drop the flute, then you need to drop the head. Or better yet, keep that 90-degree relationship between the nose and the flute. Okay, I think that was my last picture there. Okay, and that's a picture of my daughter that never wanted to play the flute. Too bad. So long tones are so helpful and so powerful to tame our flute because it allows us to really breathe very deeply, and get that steadiness in the tone that it is so critical for tone control and breath control at the same time. So in this exercise, we're going to start with a B flat. We're going to play 2 notes in a chromatic scale. So we're going to go B flat to A, then breathe. You're going to go A to A flat, and then we're going to breathe after each measure. First, you're going to listen to me play B flat to A, and then you're going to repeat it. You can also play along if you wish. It is very important that we have the same tone quality in both pitches. So here we're going to try to match the quality of the B flat to the A. Then breathe and go to the next one. Breathe deeply. One more. So in each one of these cases, I try to taper the sound down. That might be possible for some of you, but it may prove more challenging for those of you in middle school. So if you cannot taper it down, continue to play at a forte or mezzo forte dynamic until the end. But I ask you to do not cut the note with the tongue. So don't go toot. Don't use the tongue to cut the note. Just release the air. We're going to use the tongue to ignite the note. Toot. And then we just let the air go. And when we run out of air, we just stop it without using the tongue. Now we're going to try this as a duet. So you play the B flat, and I'm going to play some harmony, a third above you, okay? So you go for no, I'll play below you. Yeah, that would be better. So you play the B flat, I'll play a G. You ready? Okay. 1, 2. Breathe. Remember, you want to keep a 90-degree angle between the flute and your nose. You also want to make sure that you are not over-covering or bending your neck this way, or that you are turning out too much. So find the sweet spot where your airstream is split in half and stay with that. Okay, now the next step for this exercise is to play the second note as long as possible. The longer you play the second note, the more stamina and breath control you are going to develop. So this is a great exercise not to be in a hurry and to do it very, very slowly, okay? Now we're going to go to the next exercise. So when dragons train how to send fire, I bet at the beginning they're not very efficient, right? But with some training, they can get the fire super powerfully and just fire away. So that's what we're going to learn with this exercise. This is a breath attack exercise. Many of you may not be familiar with what a breath attack is. A breath attack is an attack that doesn't use the tongue. No tongue, just the air. So how do we do that? You're going to do that by using your core muscles. Imagine that you have a candle, a birthday cake right here, and you have a candle and you need to extinguish the candle with your breath. You cannot use your tongue. The only thing you're going to use is the power of your core muscles to create a strong burst of air. Let's do it together, and you should feel the air in the palm of your hand. Notice that I am not putting the palm right here at the level of my nose. It's below here. That's where we blow for the flute, not right across. Excellent, very good. So now if you try that, let's now try with a B flat. The sound will not be pretty because this is an exercise to ignite and awaken your core muscles. and to strengthen your air. So sometimes the sound might be a little bit distorted, and that is okay. The most important thing is that you use your core and your air. We stop right there, because if you are doing this exercise well, your tummy might be hurting at this time. So the core muscles are used so widely here and so actively that you may experience some kind of, not pain, but you can feel that you're using those muscles. If you can feel that, so then you are doing this exercise exactly well. Things to watch out when doing this exercise is not to use your throat to start the note. So you don't want to be using because then you're not going to have any fire. It's going to be just like a little light, right? So for the dragon fire, you really need to go like that. And for that, you need your core muscles. Very good. No, I am not articulating with the tongue, just with the air. That is what makes the sound not very defined, right? So when I play, I'm going to play an E flat. And without the tongue, the definition will be impaired because it's just the air. Right? But I am just using all the power of my core to send fast air into the flute. Then when I add the tongue, it'll be a lot prettier. I hope. So then that one has more definition, you see? But the other one is sort of like a lifting weights exercise for the flute. Just use your core muscles. Okay, I think we can move now to writing the air. So in this exercise, we work on flexibility. It's just we learn to fly like the dragon. We need to fly high and low, high and low. And this is an important concept to understand about how to master the different registers in the flute. The flute has 3 registers. Has the low register from C to C, low C to middle C. It has the middle register from the middle C to the high C. That will be 2 ledger lines above the staff. And then it has the third register from that C all the way up to C, D, E, right? So, one more octave. So 3 registers. The thing is that the air that we blow, it needs to be different for each register. The low register likes slower, warm air. The middle register, a little bit more fast air. And the high register, super fast air. Not necessarily cold air, right? Still, everything is warm. So when you blow into the flute likes warm air. The kind of air that you use to fog a mirror. That is the air that your flute likes. You know, that's your dragon flute air. Warm air. And with this little instrument that is called a Pneumopro, I can show you how the air can be directed by moving the different fans. So if I am in the low register, playing in the low register, the green fan will move. And if I am in the upper register, the red fan will move. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer so that you can see this device without dropping my flute. Okay, so I'll get closer here. Now I'm moving the yellow one. So that's not going to be a very good tone. I have to stay in the red and the green. And I can actually not see which one I'm moving, but I hope you get the point. When we send air into the flute, we are directing the air kind of low. It's not straight. So it's good to understand. All of that to demonstrate that when we play that B flat above the staff, the air will be situated a little bit higher than the B in the middle of the staff. So one B goes, the other. I know that the difference is so minuscule, it's so small, it might be hard to see because that difference between the upper and the lower register might be less than a fourth of an inch, a very, very small difference. But if you try aiming the B that we start right here higher than the lower one, I promise you're going to get a better result. When you go into this B, send your air this way. When you go into the lower register, send the air to your elbow. Right? Okay, so now let's play this exercise. It repeats the same long tone exercise that we did, but now in the upper register, lower register, upper register, lower register. Let's give it a try. Breathe. Breathe. Some of you may have difficulty getting to the low E flat and D. Just remember to play low E flat, the index needs to be lower. And the same for D. So it's like playing E flat and D in the middle register, but with the index lower. Okay, so how do you do with that exercise? Good, I haven't been able to keep up with the chat here. Now we're going to try the octaves by gaining speed. So T and T and T, and let's see if we can do that together. Starting on the B flat. 1, 2. Right? And you can try this going faster and faster every day. And the faster you get, the more flexibility you will gain. Okay, the last exercise that I have for today is a vibrato exercise. So many band directors, students of all skill levels and ages ask me very often, how do we do vibrato in the flute? And remember that breath attack exercise that we did at the just now? We're going to utilize the same power of the core muscles to ignite our vibrato. Vibrato will not necessarily use the core muscles in such a punctuated way, right? When I do vibrato, I move the air, not necessarily I have to be so forceful like this. Because that is not a very tasteful vibrato, let's agree on that. Vibrato is a fluctuation of the pitch. That's all it happens. The pitch goes up and down, up and down, up and down. Let's see if you can hear that. The vibrato can be super wide or narrower. It can be fast and it can be slow, and you can practice a whole combination of those. Now, yes, it is done with the breath. The vibrato is done with the breath. So the way I like to teach the vibrato is to first start with the core muscles. So just like we did our breath attacks, now we're going to use the core at first to move the air. I'm going to use my belly to move the air, and that movement in the air is going to create the pitch fluctuation. So for instance, we're going to start with an F major scale. I'm going to go one step easier than that. I'm going to do triplets. So all triplets before mastering that rhythmic pattern. I'm going to go triplets, but I'm going to use my core muscles to create an accent. So that's the first results you're going to have. Let me go up an octave. Some of them broke in this case. Okay, so now I'm going to go a little bit softer with the chords. I'm going to maintain the core muscles without an actual movement, but I'm going to try to move my air nonetheless. So now that I got the triplets, I'm going to try this scale with different vibrato patterns. Again, I'm going to try to keep my throat relaxed. If you feel any kind of tension in your throat when you're doing this exercise, think about your collarbones, which are the bones right here. Tap them and then tell yourself to relax them. And that is going to help you to keep this relaxed and engage the core. I'm going to do the first measure and then you repeat it. So the rhythm is ta 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 ta. Let's play it together. Next measure. Breathe. The more I use the chord, the better the sound. B flat. Yes, it is true. For some people, it's better to do the vibrato in the lower octave. For some, it's better to do it in the upper octave. How to expand this? Sophia asks, I can only do the vibrato in the upper octaves. Good. So I would try, Sophia, to do the vibrato in the lower octaves slower, because the vibrato in the lower octaves likes to be slower. So for instance, let's try an A. And first start by saying ho, 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 ho with your belly. Ho, ho. This is not the ultimate vibrato you're going to use, but you're training your body to operate your vibrato from below and not from your throat. What we want to avoid is this kind of vibrato. I don't know if it's going to come out on Zoom. So that vibrato is so tense that it takes away the color of the tone. So to keep the color, you gotta relax and relax your collarbone, relax your throat, and engage the core. This exercise can be done then in the next octave, and you can create exercise of that sort by asking students or training yourselves to do quarter notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, triplets, and then the fast 16 notes. And in that way, you progressively get your vibrato to do what you want. Isn't that about, right? Training your flute. It means that you teach the flute to do exactly what you want. It's a journey, not a destination for sure, but it can be done. Well, in the package, you're going to see this song that I was planning to teach you, but how about you have it as a class? So now we're going to play this song that I'm sure you know is the spring theme from Antonio Vivaldi's Spring Concerto, right? For the 4 seasons. So this is a very simple melody. I'm going to play the first part of that melody and then you repeat it. It starts with an E flat. So I believe that you might be familiar with this key signature. Good. So play just that. Let's give it a try together. Second motive goes like this. Let's repeat that. And the third motive. Good. And we got almost all the first line. The second line is very similar. So how about we play all this A section, which is the first and second line. Excellent. And now we get to the B section. The B section goes from B to A. It's pretty much like a little scale conjunct motion, except the P cap. And then we have a trill at the end. That is the F trill. So with the index finger, you go F to G. Good. So now let's try all of the B section, starting with the P cap E flat. So we're going to start with the P cap to the B section right here. So you have a nice song to kind of use as a corollary for today's session. Remember to use your core muscles to support your air. Remember to use fast fire air to feed your flute. And remember that your flute likes warm, fast air. Okay? And I hope that some of the concepts that we discussed today were helpful to you and give you some ideas on some further questions. Curiosity is always our friend. So enjoy your fluting, enjoy the relationship that you are building with your flute, and have a lot of fun playing together. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.